You're tuning into the Active Mom Podcast with physical therapist Dr. Carrie Pagliano, a real mom's guide to all things postpartum return to workouts after baby. If you're a postpartum mom, coach, trainer, or physical therapist looking for answers on how to get back to running, CrossFit, yoga, Pilates, HIIT, you name it, without the fear of pelvic floor issues or doing something wrong, this is the podcast for you. Let's start the show. All right. So it's that time of year where, everybody's trying to get in those last marathons before the Olympic trials and Boston and all that good stuff. And I was perusing some results a couple weeks ago and came across this great story of a mom of twins who killed it in her first marathon postpartum. Did a little Google searching and found out she was a PT. And so I reached out to Carter and she graciously agreed to come on the show. So Carter Norbo, thanks for being on the Active Mom Postpartum podcast.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
And you've got little ones in the background. How old are they now?
They'll be 4 months on Saturday, so
Oh my
they're keeping us
goodness.
busy.
Yes, definitely. My sister has twins and she's like, I don't really know anything different. This is just what life is right now. So
Yeah, that's right. I know, I feel like right now we barely leave the house, so traveling to that race was a first big outing kinda.
I was gonna say, did you like take a moment and just like sit in the car by yourself and just enjoy it?
Yeah. Luckily, they seem to like the car and the car seat, so we got lucky with that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right.
Yeah.
So backtrack a little bit. You've been a runner for how long?
I started running in high school, well, I guess even before that, my mom was running some, so I did some local 5Ks with her when I was at probably elementary school, and then kind of really got into it in high school, really later high school. Then, got more serious about it, decided I wanted to try to run in college and was able to do that. And then I've just continued since then. It's been a big part
Yeah,
of my life since then.
that's awesome. And so your mom was a runner too?
Yeah, I guess she did one marathon. She did New York City Marathon. So I remember her getting up early and training for that.
That's
And then, yeah, we
awesome.
did a local 5K together growing up, a couple of them.
Aw, that's great.
Mhm.
My mom didn't start running till I think I was in high school. Like, did you do cross country or at all?
I did, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, just
So
my last 2 years of high school, so
yeah, so it's easier if you're a cross country parent to be able to check into different places on the course if you can run, and I think that's what encouraged my parents to do it, and
Oh,
then,
yeah.
they also picked up, I'm from upstate New York, so they picked up Nordic skiing too. Because again, it's a lot easier to get on other parts of the course when you can ski, so
That's true, yeah. Yeah, it's not always the most spectator-friendly sport,
no,
either of
it's
those.
not, it's not.
Mhm.
So you went to PT school at Duke, is that where you went, where you ran in college as well?
I graduated from UNC, so I actually started at University of Richmond, transferred to UNC, and then, ran at both of those schools, and then actually still had some eligibility left to continue a bit at Duke, although I got injured, so I've kind of been on a lot of different teams, different coaches, but it was nice to, see different philosophies and be a part of different teams kinda throughout my schooling.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say to run and go through a PT program, that's no joke either. Was that kind of a challenge to do both those at the same
Yeah, I
time?
mean, because a lot of people at Duke were taking classes that, had labs or were more rigorous, we didn't necessarily meet for every single run, it was more just meet for the, workouts or long runs, so
Yeah.
they were kinda used to having us do some more stuff on our own, which was helpful for me.
Yeah, and for you, you're like, "Well, this is kind of my work anyway, right? I'm gonna be I'm gonna be studying
That's
these parts of my
right.
body, right? This is it's all studying." So,
Yeah.
and then, so how did kinda you got pregnant, obviously a few years between PT school and then, did you have any sense even from your kind of running background or PT or anything like that, how you were gonna navigate, running through pregnancy at all?
I feel like a lot of my classmates in physical therapy school ended up getting into more of the women's health, pregnancy postpartum therapy, but it's not something I was, like, as interested in, but then, of course, when you go through it, I was trying to, um, read up and like I was asking around to see what other people had done. And I guess I was naive in thinking that I was going to be able to run right up until the end. And honestly, I did not get to run very much during the pregnancy. I spent a lot of time on the elliptical or just trying to do other things to stay active because I still wanted to be able to do that. But running was pretty minimal throughout the pregnancy because of various aches and pains.
What how many weeks were you when you found out you had twins? Or you were
Um,
gonna have twins?
pretty ear Pretty early on, like, I don't know, 6 or 6.5 weeks.
Okay, so what was your reaction to that? Do twins run in your family or
No, they really don't, so I was very surprised, yeah, but excited.
and then how did
I feel
that
like
sort of go ahead.
I didn't say much, like, I'm kind of shocked when the doctor told me, so, not that I didn't want them to think I was upset or anything, but just was not expecting that.
Yeah, no, I can understand. I had a patient in this last year. She already had one, and then, they got pregnant with triplets. That
Oh,
one, I was like,
man.
"No, I think I probably I would have said a few F bombs with
Yeah, I
that
can imagine.
one." So I think your situation kind of brings up a good point because people think that, there's a ton of information on how we should, be active in pregnancy and that sort of thing. Like, where did you go for your information and kind of what did you figure out?
Um, I did a lot of searching online, whether it was for various articles
Yep.
or I mean, just even looking on different websites, looking at, I mean, I think I told you I had stumbled upon your podcast and maybe two others that I wasn't really somebody who listened to podcasts before, but I was trying to kind of I had got some books to read stuff, and listen whenever I could just to try to figure out what to do, and then, reaching out to as many, like, friends who have been through it that were runners, to see kind of well, during pregnancy, but also postpartum, how they,
Yep.
started to come back to running. Because I also felt like that was I know everyone's very different, but I feel like there was not a lot of literature on how to safely get back into it.
Yeah, no, I think it's such a good point that you bring up is that and I think historically that's where a lot of the information has come from is you just ask other runners who have gone through it and be like, "All right, well, what did you do? What did you do?" And you're trying to make, a good decision for yourself with whatever stuff that you figure out. But really, like, I don't even think until maybe what are we in 2023? Maybe even like the past 4 years, we've had a nice push forward in some information, but even some of that has just been like the pros don't have a lot of stuff, and I mean, I feel like there's been so many good running books out this year too, like Kara Goucher being like, "Okay, I'm gonna get
Mhm.
back at 2 weeks," and, Lauren Fleshman being like, "Yeah, we didn't have any guidance on how this worked," and you assume that people that run really fast would get a lot of support and have good
Yeah.
information, and it's a lot of it's just anecdotal. Um,
Mhm.
so so anybody that you talked to that had twins and was able to give you
No.
advice?
That was the hard part too. In reaching out, I was asking if there were any other twin moms, and so because I know that's going to be different than having a single baby and trying to
Yeah.
run or just stay active. But no, I really didn't find any other twin moms to collaborate with during or after so much.
Yeah. There's no, like,
So
moms of multiples for really fast moms.
yeah, that's right. It's hard not to compare to those who did just have a single baby that I was talking to, but
Right.
trying to remember that it should be different for me.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, for you, like, what kinds of, things that you did you go through to be like, "Hey, you know what? Running's not gonna be a great option. Elliptical might be a little bit better." Like, what were the things that you sort of, had to navigate?
I was still training pretty hard, like at that through the 6.5 week kind of mark, and I was trying to run a marathon in April. I think it was April. Yeah, April, thinking, oh well, I can maybe try to hit the Olympic trials standard, before I have to stop running
Right.
or severely decrease it. But then I ended up getting a stress fracture in my foot. Um,
Mm,
just because I think at that point I hadn't changed necessarily nutrition or backed off of my training load. So I think that was kind of what may have caused that.
Yeah.
And also in my reading, I mean, you would know better than I would, but I was reading how bone injuries are more common too, and I think just not getting enough nutrients on top of what I normally would take to
Yeah.
support that.
That's been a big conversation this year. There was, the female athlete conference that was in, Boston in June. That was one of the big topics, and it's funny, I think in our space, we tend to think of Red S as being not related to pregnancy, postpartum, that sort of thing, but it really is a ripe space for it because to your point, like you're growing in your case, a couple small humans, you
Mhm,
have increased nutritional demands on your energy. You were probably exhausted. I mean, I was exhausted with one. I can't imagine with
mhm,
two. But that's been a huge conversation this year, just kind of moving that energy deficiency and making a bigger picture and focusing on women who are of childbearing age and trying to navigate that and training.
mhm.
So yeah, there's more information now, I think, than there was even just a year or two ago, but probably will inform future mothers of twins to come, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So you got a little surprise. The kids came early.
Mhm,
Talk us through that.
yeah, so they were not due until end of October, October 28th, and then, they were born on August 16th, so 10 and a half weeks early. Luckily, we had most of the equipment or things in the house, but definitely had not opened most of it. So yeah, I mean, it was definitely a surprise. I feel like I just started to feel off kind of that day or even the day before, and then went to the hospital. Well, actually, I had a doctor's appointment that morning, and I mean, I guess being used to aches and pains, I was like, "I don't know, like, what it's supposed to feel like," and I think I tried to downplay it a bit, and then by that evening, I decided I needed to go to the emergency room, and, like, there was no stopping it at that point because they just kinda kept checking in with me every 2 hours and,
Mhm.
um, didn't really do anything to stop it at that point. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely a big surprise.
And for you, like what was those first, as you're going towards the delivery room, like what's going through your head at this point? You're like, all right, this is it. Let's go game on. I'm prepared for this. Or you're like, whoa, this is a little soon.
Yeah, I mean, I guess all new, not knowing what to expect or like, "Oh, I don't do I even know, like, how I'm supposed to push?" Or, like,
Right.
various things like that, but I kind of felt like when I went to the emergency room, like, "I think this is gonna happen tonight or tomorrow." I guess it was the next morning, whereas my husband was with me and he was like, "Oh, I think we're probably gonna end up going home this evening," and I'm like, I don't know, I don't
No,
think
honey,
so."
nice try.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. And then how quickly did they come?
Pretty quickly, actually. I mean, after checking in with me at each like 2-hour intervals, then I went to the operating room since with twins they had to take you there.
Yep.
And I think it was probably like within 45 minutes or an hour for the first one, and then the second one was about 40 minutes later because originally they were saying, well, we'll take you back to the room. It may be like 2 or 3 hours before the
Mhm.
next one comes, and then as we were making our way back to the room, I was like, "Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be that long," and then they checked in it, and
Oh my
the second
goodness.
one came shortly after.
Super fast then. Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
How big were they when they were born?
Um, the larger one was, like, 3 pounds, and then smaller one was 2 pounds, so
That's pretty good though,
yeah,
when you think
not
for
too
that
bad
far along.
considering.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
definitely, definitely. So what is the next 6 weeks after that look like for you guys? You're all of a sudden new parents. You've got these little, tiny humans. What does life look like?
It felt kinda weird because it almost seemed like nothing things changed, but we for the first week, we were unable to touch them really or hold them, because they were under, like, a protocol where we were unable to do that,
Mhm.
and then even they were in the hospital for 7 weeks and 9 weeks, so, going back and forth from home to the hospital 2
Yeah.
or 3 times a day, which luckily we did live close, but then you're like they're never coming home with you, and
Right.
so it almost felt like you didn't have kids yet, even though they're there.
Right. Yeah, that was
But it was
my
stressful going back and forth and,
I
spending
feel
a lot of
like
time there.
yeah, I mean, and anytime I work with, especially like my triplet mom, it was different for her, I think, because she had one at home that she's like, actually, this is easy right now. I know it's about to get really hard, but having to go back and forth, like that takes a toll, even though,
Mhm.
you might be able to go home and go to sleep in your own bed and that sort of thing too. Like leaving your babies there, like that must have been incredibly hard.
Yeah, and I felt like what was even harder almost was when one was there and one was home because,
Yeah.
then it's splitting time, but, I mean, we brought the one twin who was home with us to the hospital sometimes, but then
Mhm.
sometimes you just split time, and so that was kind of stressful.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. So where in this did you get in your head that okay, it's time to start training and moving again and figuring out you? Because I think especially with NICU moms, there's so much emphasis on okay, I need to get back, I need to be with them, that sort of thing. Where did you start to carve out some space for yourself?
I mean, I do feel like exercise is running, in particular is a big stress relief for me, and with the stress of that, I knew I wanted to get back to being active, but also being careful not to do it too soon. And I feel like even now there's still in my head like, "Oh, I need to get home as soon as possible," so it's maybe
Yeah.
not as relaxing as it used to be, because 'cause I'm thinking about getting back there to care for them, but yeah, I mean, I was definitely motivated to get back to it to do something for myself because I do feel like it's also a big, like, social thing for me running with
Yep.
friends, so I feel like it's been the one time right now that I really get out of the house is
Yeah.
to go exercise for the day.
Yeah, definitely. So how did you decide kind of, when they were in the NICU and then when they came home, how did you decide kind of how to get your workouts in and what you were going to do and when? How did you kind of make those decisions?
My husband's been really supportive. He's had time off, so it's nice that he's been able to help me, and I've tried to
Yeah.
get up early and hopefully exercise before they would get up, and yeah, I mean, that's the way it's been so far. I know things will get much trickier when we both return to work, so it'll be,
Oh
different
my
figuring.
goodness. Yeah, when do you go back?
I'm going back January 8th because that's
Okay,
when
so
they start daycare, so
you got a
I was able to
little
get a
bit
fair amount of
longer.
time off. Yeah.
That's no, that's pretty good. And when does your husband go back?
He actually, I think mid to late January
Nice.
because of
You
the way the semesters work out,
okay.
'cause he's a
Okay.
teacher.
Oh, that's really nice. Then so
Mhm.
that's nice that you guys were both able to be home then. That's good.
Mhm.
So, at what point did you look ahead at this what was it, the Tidewater Strider Dismal Swamp Marathon? That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
At what point did you look at that and be like, "Okay, that's gonna be on my radar screen?"
I mean, I was having trouble or struggling with not getting another chance at trying to qualify for the trials because I was relatively close, but I felt like there was definitely a chance. So,
Mhm.
all along I was thinking, well, I would love to get one more shot at it, but then realistically with their due date, that's not going to happen. But then when
Right.
they came early, I'm like, well, maybe there's a chance. So, I just gradually worked back into to training, and then I really didn't decide until like the week of because I didn't know if it was a crazy idea and kept thinking like, "Oh, well, let me see how this run goes and let me see how the
Right.
next one goes." So then my husband did some research, found that local race versus trying to go to
Yeah.
California International Marathon.
Yep.
And so like Thursday, I don't think I signed up for the race until Friday. The race was Saturday, but I decided Thursday that I was going to do it. And then we were kind of
Wow.
scrambling last minute to see if anyone would want to help pace me or run with me since it is a smaller race.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just decided that I didn't think I could. The minimum time I could go to California, since I'd have to fly all the way out there and back, would be like 48 hours, and so decided to do the local one, even though it was going to be running by myself. I knew going into that.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, I can't imagine running that far by myself, and by the way, you won it by a lot, right?
Yeah.
And not just the female, like you won the race for anybody who wasn't paying attention. So 48 hours before this, how do you kind of go deep into that part of you that's like, "Hey, I'm gonna try and hit this time," but you now have this other context of, "I have these 2 little kids, but I also have to figure out, strategy and fuel. I'm gonna be by myself." Like, what's running through your head 48 hours before this?
There's definitely less time to worry about all the little details and getting the perfect night of sleep, 2 nights out or 1 night out. I definitely didn't get as much sleep as I did before previous races, but, just trying to think, like, having the mindset, well, you know, I've done hard things in terms of, like, having the twins and I'm having my husband and come up here with me, and we're taking the time to bring them, so it's a lot of effort, and I know I really wanna do this, so I'm thankful I get one more shot, so just trying to, like, I don't know, bring in as many positives and things that can motivate me to keep going. I also did a lot of time on the elliptical, or as I was working back into running, I, was lucky enough to have access to a body weight assisted treadmill, so
Oh,
a
nice.
lot of the miles there were just staring at the wall or staring at a mirror, so I feel like the, monotony of that kinda helped prepare me for just being alone on the course out there.
I think you just took motherhood and, like, combined it into just, like, a small little pit of, "I know how to do hard things. I can dig into everything I've learned before this. I can stare at a wall and be fine." Like, you
Yeah.
really just encompassed it all. Alright, so you show up at the start line. How are you feeling kinda as you step to the line that morning?
It's hard not to feel a little definitely nervous, but not as prepared as I'm used to. I'm used to having a full, like, at least 12 to 14 week build up to a race, whereas this was 8 weeks, but I really didn't start running all of my mileage on land until, like, the week of. I was still incorporating the treadmill,
Mhm.
so, yeah, I mean, trying to, again, think about the success that I had with the workouts I had done leading up to it, but yeah, knowing that probably a little different than what I've done before, so,
Yeah.
um, yeah.
At any point during the race, did you kinda let your thoughts go to your kids at all, or the fact that, "Hey, I'm out here running for the first time, and I've got these 2 little babies at home, and this body is kinda kick ass because it's been through a lot," and, any point is your brain kinda going to those places?
Yeah, definitely, and, my husband was driving along the course, and we get out, and, it was too much to take them in and out of the car all the time, but I
Yeah.
could hear them in the car sometimes too, so I was, yeah, thinking about them, telling him at one point, like, "Go help them, don't worry about me."
Right?
But yeah.
You're like, "I'm good. I've got this race down. Go take care of the kids."
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it hits different when you run and then you hear those little voices or those for you, it
Uh-huh.
would be little noises coming from the car. It's a little bit different than, the normal cheers, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So at what point are you kind of, like, paying attention to pacing and you're like, "All right, this is gonna be tight. I don't know what's gonna happen here." Like, what's going through your head as you're getting towards the end of the race?
I was definitely paying attention in the beginning. The course actually had markers every quarter mile, so going out,
Mm,
because it was out and back twice,
mhm,
I was able to kinda track it, but then once I turned around, I was no longer, on the mile markers because we turned at an odd distance.
mhm.
So I still, like, was looking at my watch at each mile split, but I didn't have a great sense of where I was overall. So honestly, like, once I got to halfway, I knew the halfway split, but then I saw a couple of miles that were like a few seconds over the pace I wanted. So I was thinking, oh no, like I think I'm off, and I feel like I may have settled a bit at that point. But
Yeah,
um, then when I got to 20 miles, I my watch split. I was like, well, I guess I'm still pretty close. I should keep trying for this. So
yeah,
yeah, I definitely paid attention to it, but not maybe as much as if there was just a clock at the start finish.
right.
There wasn't one along the course otherwise.
Yeah. And so you finished, and your splits were pretty killer, by the way, like, 602 splits. You finish in 2:38:12, which is like, what is it, 70 seconds or something off the Olympic
Yeah,
trials qualifier.
2:37 was uh
Yeah, so what's going through your head as you cross and you see it? Are you happy? Are you like, "Okay, I did the best I could," or, like, what's going through your head?
Yeah, definitely initially happy because it was, a big PR for me and being close to the standard, but then, as you think about it more, it's like, "Oh, I think I could have, I shouldn't have settled here, or what if I had gone to that other race and had people to run with? Maybe I could have gotten it."
Yeah,
But no, I think I need to be happy with the fact that I was even able to race it because I didn't think that was really gonna be a possibility as soon as I got pregnant. I thought it was pretty much out.
yeah. No, definitely. You mentioned, so was this a marathon PR for you?
Yes, uh-huh.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I have even more questions now. Understanding that you're an N of 1 and you're not that far out from postpartum, like, what do you attribute to being able to do a PR this early on postpartum? Like, it doesn't seem to make a whole ton of sense, but yet it's very much what you did. Like, what do you look back and you're like, "Okay, this is why I was able to put this together."
I mean, I've always had higher mileage, so I don't know if just having a base and then trying to maintain fitness with, like, doing the elliptical or I mean, I tried to run a little bit here and there, but it wasn't much, so I think that was helpful. I think this marathon was different because I was trying to pay more attention to the fueling, just knowing,
Yeah.
uh, especially, like, with breastfeeding and stuff like that, that I probably needed to take in more calories, and it was warm, so I was also trying to get fluids. They were less available because of it being a small race, but I think
Yep.
I took in more fuel than what I had previously done in other marathons, and luckily it didn't seem to bother my stomach, so I feel like that was helpful too.
Yeah.
And then I guess the only other thing is I mentioned running on a body weight assisted treadmill, so less pounding, but then still being able to get in good aerobic work and kind of bump up fitness with that, I think that was helpful.
Yeah, no, just having access to that is huge, and especially with the history of the stress fracture, I'm sure that made you feel a little bit more comfortable that,
Mhm.
that you're trying to do as much as you can, but in a very intentional kind of way. Um, so looking ahead, you've got this under your belt now. Are you thinking, okay, if I can do this in this short a time, what else can I do? Or are you just like, you know what, I'm gonna sit back, watch the Olympics, sights ahead for another year? Like, how are you feeling right now?
Definitely motivated to keep going with it. I think, like you said, um, if I can do it with this short of a buildup, I'm hoping, and I even before I got pregnant, I feel like I was due for a PR or a better race based on how my training was going. I just hadn't raced that recently, so I'm hoping there's still a lot more room for improvement, and I want to keep working towards that. Of course, the window for the next trials won't open for a couple years, but I still would like to run some marathons before that happens just to see if I can improve my time more.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think it's so encouraging to see so many more women returning to the marathon space after having kids. And I just feel like there's a sweet spot for women in running late 30s, early 40s. I feel like there's so much potential there. Looking at the field that will be running in Orlando, do you have any favorites? Are any of them moms?
Um, well, Kira D'Amato is a mom, and
Yep.
she was helpful for me she was rooting for me in my marathon. I feel like I would root for her anyways, but I definitely will root for her in terms of the trials, and I think she has a good shot at making the Olympic team too. So it'll be
Yep.
fun to see. She's one of the moms that sticks out to me. I know she's not newly postpartum, but I think there are a couple of pros that are newly postpartum too,
Yep.
like Molly Huddle and
Yep.
um,
Yeah, I feel like there's
yeah.
a handful and probably some that I'm not even aware of for sure. What was your opinion on the whole, like, 12 PM start time? Did you have any thoughts or you just didn't care?
It does seem very late. I think isn't it correct they got it moved up a little bit, maybe
I
to
think
10 or
yeah, I think is what I heard was 10. Yeah, but still, I mean, it's Florida in February, who knows? Like
Yeah, it doesn't seem like the smartest thing, but I just assume there are hopefully a reason for it, whether it's like broadcasting
Yeah,
or whatever else. But I'm
yeah,
glad they were able to move it up a little bit. It's still gonna be super hot, I'm sure.
yeah, no, for sure, for sure. For you kinda looking ahead at your training now, understanding that, as the babies get bigger, they're gonna have more demands and things like that. Do you have, um like, have you gotten any advice from other mother runners about, "Hey, this may be how you wanna start to tailor your training," or, "This is a way to kinda navigate work and running and babies," and that kinda stuff? What advice have you gotten?
I haven't gotten that far yet. I feel like I was more focused on the initial return, but I definitely would like to reach out to people to get some ideas and um, I guess kind of trial and error is my plan at least initially. I have a friend who also recently had a baby and has returned to work, and she's still training, so um, I can talk to her. But I know everyone's different, kind of like the
Yep.
during the pregnancy. So hopefully I can make it work. I know that I probably won't be able to get as high of mileage as what I was pre-pregnancy or before the babies, but I think that'll be fine. And I'm hoping that eventually I can do at least some short runs with the stroller, which will be hard, but I'm
Yeah,
willing to
no,
try it.
that's right. So the stroller is a whole 'nother animal. It changes your
Hmm.
stride a little bit because, you can't overstride, that's the good news because you hit the kick plate, but
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
with a double, that would be, we got a double, I think, after our second, and, we got the bob with, like, the swivel front, and that thing was a bus. Oh my god, it was such a bus. So
Yeah,
we
I can't imagine fitting on some of the sidewalks are narrow and then Charlottesville's pretty hilly where I am, so
Right,
um,
yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah, no, it's funny too when kids get to be a certain age, they start throwing stuff out of the stroller,
Oh yeah.
and then it becomes a game, and then the next thing after so you have to have everything tied to the stroller, and then, another phase that comes beyond that is if you let them out of the stroller, they turn into boards, so they like, "I'm not going back in," and then like, I'm trying to think, it was with my oldest, we were, I don't I was like 5 miles away or something like that, and it was starting to get late, and he decided he didn't wanna go back in the stroller, and I'm like, "Oh, shit, like, how are we gonna get home?" And you're trying to stuff this board back in the
Yeah.
stroller, so sometimes it's just better to go by yourself.
Yeah.
Alright, so a couple questions we ask everybody at the end, of every show. I don't know if you're reading or listening to anything right now, but, if you are, please share, and if not, we're not blaming you. You're busy right
I
now.
have honestly have not gotten back into doing much of either. Listening right now would probably be in the car once I return to work, but
Yep.
have not spent much time outside of the house, and then reading, yeah, has not
I would
other
not
than reading some articles here and there or looking up stuff online,
or Goodnight
that's
Moon.
about it.
You're doing a lot of Goodnight Moon, I'm sure.
Yeah.
We love the Sandra Boynton books, all the hippo. Have you run into those, the board books?
I'm not sure.
Oh, it's like, Hippos Go Berserk, that's a good one. Like, basically, they're all about hippos, but they're good board books, and kids love them. And I remember having memorized them because they want you to read them 17 times over, so,
Oh,
um, Sandra Boynton
yeah, I'll have
books,
to
you
look at this.
you can't beat them. There's, like, a ton of them, so the kids love them. So, maybe that'll be on your next reading
Yeah,
list.
probably.
Alright, I was gonna, a favorite activity since becoming a mom, you can say running, but you can say other things too.
Um, I mean, running's always been there. Spending time I don't just spending time with them and seeing all the new things they do each day, like, just seeing them smile at you and just simple things like that, or, going
Yeah,
for a walk with the kids and my husband, I enjoy doing that,
it's
but yeah,
nice when
just
they
little things.
yeah, no, it's nice when they finally, like, give you some sort of recognition and, you're
Mhm.
not just the diaper and the milk machine. They're like, "Oh, I do know you."
Yeah.
You get a little something back. And then for you, what does it mean, other than trying to get an OTQ to be an active mom in postpartum?
I'm hoping setting a good example for the kids so that they'll see me doing something like that that I'm passionate about and not necessarily running, but they'll find some way to be active that they enjoy as well. Because I think it's important for everybody, especially as a PT. I mean, I think everyone should be active in some form.
Yeah. No, definitely, and I hear that a lot from moms, especially those of us that are PT moms, trying to be a good example for our kids and just show them that activity is good. And though they're not going to remember this, I think you have definitely left an impression. You were the talk of many circles that I'm in, running circles and mom circles that were just like, dang, that's really cool to see you going out and getting it. So, thank you for inspiring a lot of moms and showing us what's possible. And we hope all the best for you. It's tough work being a mom, and I can't imagine with twins. But we're excited to kind of watch your journey as you kind of grow into being a mother runner of twins. So.
Well, thank
Um,
you.
yeah, thanks for being on the show. We really appreciate it, and we can't wait to see what's coming for you in the next couple of years.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Did you enjoy the podcast? If so, leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and tell a friend to do the same. Register now for the free on-demand postpartum mama masterclass, How to Overcome the 3 Most Common Return to Run Mistakes. You can skip to the good part and get back to running while missing these mistakes. Find this and more free resources under the patient section on carriepagliano.com. This podcast represents the opinions of Dr. Carrie Pagliano and her guests to the show. The content should not be taken as medical advice and is for entertainment purposes only. Always consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions.